Let's talk a little bit about the menstrual cycle.
Wow.
Do you know your cycle well?
We are not going to be professors here. We are not going to talk about hormones that go up, hormones that go down, the hypothesis, what it does, none of that. We are going to do everything in a nutshell. But we are going to talk in a way that you can understand some things that will be very important when we talk about contraceptives, for example. So let's go. Normal menstrual cycle. It lasts there between the first day of menstruation and the first day of the next menstruation, between 21 and 35 days. So, if your cycle has more than 21 and less than 35 days, don't worry, because you have a normal cycle. And the menstrual cycle needs to come every month regulated, like 30 and 30 days, 25 and 25 days, 28 and 28 days. No, I even think that most women don't have this cycle, which is a little watch. He can come 27, the other 29, the 28, then 26, then 30, and it's okay. No problem. Another thing that is a common complaint, oh Dr. Norberto, this month I had my period twice. My dear ones, think about your menstrual cycle. It respects the period, but it doesn't respect the calendar. It doesn't even know that there is a calendar. So let's take a cycle, that book cycle, that little pattern of 28 days. If you have a 28-day cycle and you menstruated on the 1st, you will menstruate again on the 29th, 2 menstruations in the same month, and everything is fine. Everything is normal, okay? If you have a 25-day cycle, you will menstruate on the 3rd and the 28th and everything is normal. Don't worry, it's okay. You can have 2 cycles in the same month and it's normal. Now, if you had your period on the 1st and the 15th, remember that we said that the normal cycle is from the 21st to the 35th? 15-day cycles are not normal. What if your cycles are longer than 35 days? They are also not normal. Cycles longer than 35 days, they can be anovulatory cycles, cycles that don't ovulate, so you'll need a consultation to find out what's going on. And what are the phases of the menstrual cycle? You know? To explain to you about the phases of the menstrual cycle, we're going to use a standard 28-day cycle, okay? Remembering, we always start counting the cycle from the first day of menstruation. It started bleeding, the first day of menstruation. This first phase of the cycle is the follicular phase, okay? And why follicular? Because when you menstruate, your estrogen and progesterone are very low, and there in the pituitary gland there is a hormone called FSH, which is also not very relevant, but which will stimulate estrogen, which will go to the ovary, will pick up 4, 5, 6 follicles and it will start to grow, and they will form little cysts, and of these 4, 5, they will grow. And when the 14th day arrives, it will only be released normally, okay? And the others will evolve. So, that first phase, where the follicles grow, is the follicular phase. On the 14th day, the ovum is released. Can be released too? You can, but it's more difficult. And 3 too, but it's even harder. When you ovulate, then the follicular phase ends, and in that little cyst that released the egg in that little cape called the corpus luteum, it will start to produce progesterone. And then we start the lutea phase. So in the first phase the follicle grows, releases the egg. And in the second phase, that endometrium that was very thin, that started to grow, it will become thicker, it will become full of veins, it will become full of arteries. Why? Because if that egg that you released meets with a spermatozoon, is fertilized, when it returns to the uterus, it will meet an endometrium that has enough blood for it to stick there, for it to settle there, and for it to be able to nourish this little embryo that is forming. So, first follicular phase, follicle growth, egg release. Second phase, lutea phase, the endometrium, that little skin inside the uterus will start to be full of veins, full of arteries, full of blood, to be able to nourish the little embryo that will form. What if you didn't get pregnant? If you didn't get pregnant, hormone production by that lucid body, by that eggshell, starts to drop. Starting to fall, these veins and these arteries close. And then that tissue runs out of oxygen and it sort of dies and it falls off, and then you get your period again. So that's the menstrual cycle. It's a first phase where you prepare the follicles for you to ovulate. You ovulate a second phase where you prepare the endometrium to receive the little embryo that is arriving. If you receive it, progesterone production will continue and the little embryo will grow.
And if you don't have a little embryo, if you don't get pregnant, that progesterone will drop, those veins and those arteries will shrink, you'll run out of blood and that tissue will die, it'll flake off.
And when it flakes off, you menstruate again.
E aí?
And then it starts all over again. First day of the cycle, estrogen, progesterone low, estrogen begins to rise, the follicular phase begins and so on, for all the years that the woman is within her childbearing age, until she reaches the menopausal phase.
But that is a topic for another conversation.